All right, I think that we are live. I was just checking Facebook on my other screen. Gonna pull that up. And if you are joining me live, I would love for you to write in the comments where you're tuning in from. I am broadcasting live from Chicago. It's kind of a dreary day, so I've got lights even though it's noon here, but let me know where you're tuning in from, and we can go ahead and let me share my screen so we can get started. Pop up my presentation. All right, I think we've got, oops. And let me make sure, let me know in the chat too if you can hear me. I want to make sure that I am broadcasting loud and clear. So if you are joining in the Facebook Live, say hi, let me know with a like or a comment below where you're tuning in from, and just let me know that you're watching, because I really want to share these 7 secrets to taking a sabbatical with you. Let me put it into presentation mode. And let me know to, let me pull up the Facebook page to make sure that I've got that live. So yeah, I see a couple of you are on, so just hit the like, let me know that you're here. And I want this to be as interactive as possible. So in the comments, hi Jess, in the comments, let me know, any questions that pop up as I go through this, but we'll go ahead and get started. I know you're busy and this is the middle of the day. So for any of you that are joining me, I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about how you can take a sabbatical. So you're in the right place if you believe that there's more to life than work, if you need a break from your daily routine, if you're just feeling stressed, if you want to find and renew your zest for life, and of course, if you want to learn how you can take a sabbatical. And I define that as a month or longer. And I think that the terminology may be confusing, especially if that's a new term for you. It's not just for professors. It's something that I know that you can do. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that without breaking the bank or quitting your job. So we're going to share, I'm going to share 4 ways that you can take a month off of work without quitting your job, because I don't think that that's required in order to do that. And you may be wondering how, so I will share that with you. I'll also be sharing the top ways to save money on travel, how to confidently have, as I like to call it, the talk with work. So HR, your manager, to make sure that that request gets approved. And the number 1 shortcut to save time in planning a sabbatical. So this workshop is not for you if you are not open to new ideas, not interested in making positive changes in your life, not respectful. I don't think that that describes any of you watching, but this is going to be a safe space. I want to make sure everybody feels comfortable sharing, where they're coming at in watching this presentation. So we're going to keep it a safe space. And just as a note that in total transparency, I will be making an offer at the end of this. I will be inviting you to a new program that I am launching that is going to be able to help you, take you step by step throughout the sabbatical planning process as quickly and easily as possible. So if you do stay to the end and decide that you want to join me in this program, then I'm offering a fast action bonus. And that is a one-on-one budgeting strategy session with me. It's a 30-minute call to help you stretch those travel dollars. It's a laser focused call. We're gonna dig into the details and figure out exactly how you can make the most of your money, stretch those dollars, and get that sabbatical of your dreams. I know money is a big, big concern for a lot of people, and I will be addressing that in more details later on in the conversation. But if this is something that really interests you, I've taken 4 sabbaticals, as I'll share more details on too. And I know how to slice and dice those budgets to be able to make that work for you. So I want to hear just where are you coming at from right now? Give me a why or a yes in the comments if any of these statements resonate with you. If you are feeling stressed and anxious, maybe you're barely holding it all together on some days. I know that we all have these phones in our pockets and purses, so you're always connected to your inbox. And even when you're not physically in the office, you still have one foot in the door, so to speak. Are you feeling stuck in your routines? Maybe just unfulfilled by your job? If you've ever uttered the words, "It's fine, it pays the bills," when describing your job, let me know in the chat if that describes you. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you struggling to find the time in your daily life for these things? 1 being it's no problem at all. 10 being I'm really struggling. I just can't do the things that I really want to do in life, which according to a lot of the conversations that I've had with people, this is really what it boils down to. We're working all the time, but really what we want to do with our time is connect with loved ones, have some alone time, relax, recharge your batteries, learn something fun, achieving personal goals. So what are those things that you just don't have the time to do in your daily life, and you're not quite sure when that's even going to be possible? I want you to be able to do those things and not have to wait until you retire. So that's what a sabbatical is all about. Also want to make sure that you have time for making sure that your mental and physical health is in check. Want to just maximize that time that you've got, and maybe give back to those in need. So let me know, scale of 1 to 10, even if you're watching the replay for these. I would love interactions. I will be going back and looking at the comments. So any feedback that you have, I'll be going back, even if you're not with me live. So if you're struggling to do the things that you love in your day-to-day life, and I want you to look forward into the future, a year, 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years from now. If you don't make any changes and you just continue living life as you are, and you already know the years go by so fast. I mean, think about the last 5 years. How different is your life from the last 5 years? So really my call to action here is just making a change for yourself. Because I want you to think about what you want out of life. And it's not something that we even consider very often, which is unfortunate because we're so wrapped up in our to-do lists and our emails that we can't take, a 30,000 foot look at our lives, but that's what a sabbatical offers. So I want you to think about your current situation. And if you didn't make any changes, so you just stayed status quo, what would your mental and physical health look like? If you already said that you're feeling stressed and anxious, that's only going to grow over time, right? If you don't address that and make changes. If you have a family, if you're a parent, think about how fast your kids are growing up. That's not going to change. So you really want to make the most of your time with your kids before they move out, and even before they, get to high school, especially if you have younger kids. Make the most of that time. If you have aging family members, your parents, how much time do you really have with them? Are you spending the time that you want and making the most of that quality time with them? And for your relationships, if you have a significant other, how much real quality time are you sharing with them? I mean, if it's on the weeknights, maybe you come home from work, you're exhausted, and you crash on the couch. That's not real quality time. And I want that for you. And I want that to enhance your relationship. And if you have big personal goals, those things that you've been dreaming about forever, but you haven't done, I want you to be able to do that. So really take this time to just evaluate where you're at, and if you want to make changes to improve all of these aspects of your life. And I invite you to consider a sabbatical as a way to achieve these. Now, of course, it's not the only way, but it's a way that I feel very strongly about being a proactive and positive solution to be able to get what you want out of life and live a life by your design, not by default, which is what most people are doing. And it's maybe what you've been doing with your life until now. So this is just really an invitation to evaluate and hopefully motivate you to make the changes that I know you can do and make for yourself. And just a reminder, you've probably heard some version of this quote before, but no one on their deathbed said, "I wish I worked more." Now, yes, work is required. You need money to live, but I encourage you to take this again as an opportunity to evaluate your life choices and figure out, do you need to course correct? Do you want to take some time and space for yourself to potentially make a bigger move to be able to do the things that you ultimately want to do and accomplish in your life, so you don't have regrets when you're laying on your deathbed? I know that's a bit morbid, but you know, it's something that we all need to be reminded of, just how short life can be. So that was really just, I wanted to first start out with that to get you in the mindset of potentially making changes. But before we get to my 7 secrets, which we will get to very shortly, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Susie Chow, the founder of Carpe Diem Traveler. And here's a little bit about me. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Those are my parents. I went to Ohio State University, and that's where I caught the travel bug. I studied abroad, and it was phenomenal. That was the first time that I had ever been outside of North America, and I was hooked. So after college, I moved to Chicago. I got a job in management consulting. I chose that mostly because that would be my best chance at working abroad, which was my ultimate dream. And I did that in just a few years. You can see the middle bottom picture. That's the team that I worked with in Italy. I was the only non-Italian on the team. It was just a dream, and it was amazing. But I'll share the flip side of that job. As you can imagine, consulting is a stressful job, which is really the big reason that led to me taking sabbaticals. And I would call myself a serial sabbatical taker. I've taken 4 since 2008, and that's a combination of month-long sabbaticals and 1 year-long sabbatical. The picture up top is with our 2 backpacks. That's me and my husband, Jan. That's us on the day that we left for our year-long trip. And after that, I opened up my own travel agency. So back in February 2016, I decided that I wanted to help others explore the world, because I've been so fortunate to explore so many corners of it. And I wanted to share that with people and get them motivated and on the road. So as I mentioned, my life before sabbaticals, there were good things and bad things. Of course, I got what I wanted. I worked abroad. I had some phenomenal career opportunities. But ever since I was little, I was always that high achiever that put a lot of pressure on myself. I had those perfectionist tendencies, wanted to please people, and I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do. And the things that you probably think that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to work hard, get into a good college, and then get a good job and keep that and don't have fun until you retire. But I wasn't happy with that path. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I played it safe, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled in my career. There were things that I liked about it, and it was a wonderful place for me to start my career, but I just felt constantly on edge. There were definitely ugly cries in the bathroom when the stress got too much. I even cried a couple times in front of my managers. And, that is something, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's not good. And to me, that signified that I was just on the brink of burnout, and it was just getting to be too much stress for me, and I needed a break. So I realized that I could take a sabbatical. And as I mentioned, I've taken 4 over the years. And to summarize what the sabbaticals have meant for me, it was the ability for me to take the time and space that I needed to see the potential changes that I could make in my life. I was able to think and dream bigger than my previous small vision for myself. Because when you're in the weeds and you're constantly stressed and anxious and stuck in your routines and tied into your to-do list, it's really hard to take a step back and evaluate, what do I really want out of this life? And I hope that if nothing else, this presentation is helping you just kind of think some of those bigger thoughts. But really, a sabbatical is an opportunity that you can be totally disconnected and potentially make some of those big changes in your life. And for me, what that meant was it proved to myself that I could take risks. And that was something, as a former play it safe by the rules kind of girl, that was really scary to me. But once I, started going off the beaten path, so to speak, and taking sabbaticals, I realized, you know what, I can take risks and my life is better for doing that. And I also was able to create so many memories that last a lifetime. Now, why would you rob yourself of those memories with your loved ones, especially with your family, your significant other, friends? And just hold off on doing all of those things that you want until you retire, which is, what society tells you to do. You can do those things earlier so you can have those memories to last your lifetime, not just those last few years of your life. So in summary, sabbaticals brought me confidence, connection with loved ones, that's my husband in the middle, and clarity about what I wanted and how I wanted to live my life. So you're thinking, yes, that's great. I love it, Susie. Yeah, I want to take a sabbatical, but I can't get the time off of work. I don't have enough money. The timing's just not right. I'm sure that some of these resonate with you, and I don't want that for you. I want to remove those barriers, which is what I'm going to be sharing in the next few slides with my 7 secrets. But let me know in the chat, if you're on the webinar right now, or in the comments below on Facebook, which of these 3 barriers is the biggest for you? Is it getting the time off of work? If you just don't think that that's possible, or it's too expensive, you think that sabbaticals are only for rich people, or if the timing's just not right. I'm too old, I'm too young, my kids are too old, my kids are too young, I can't do this, I can't do that. Maybe someday. Well, someday is not a good place to be. I want to inspire action from you. So let me know. I know there's a little bit of a delay, especially on Facebook, but I'm going to be still monitoring those comments. And, I will address each of these fears or barriers individually. So here are my 7 secrets to taking a sabbatical. Secret number 1, you don't need to quit your job unless you want to anyway. So sabbaticals between jobs, that's obviously a wonderful solution. It's perfect time. You don't have to worry about transitioning any of your work to anyone. You aren't obligated to do anything for work during that time. So it just makes things a lot easier. And I encourage you to do this proactively, not just reactively. If, let's say you want to quit your job and you don't have one lined up. You can still take a sabbatical in that case too. But I wanted to share Justine. So she proactively schedules these sabbaticals, usually between 6 to 8 weeks in between jobs. And she negotiates those start dates to make sure that she has that window to do the things that really recharge her and refuel her. She's, high-level executive woman, and she has done a phenomenal job at taking these sabbaticals in between her jobs that, she's typically at about 4 years. So it's just a really nice break to reset before going into kind of that next challenge and the next step of her career. But I want to make sure that you understand you don't need to wait until you change jobs to take a sabbatical. So yes, that's one solution. But here are 4 ways that you can take a sabbatical without quitting your job. So I've got these 4 quadrants set up. It's a combination of paid and unpaid. Obviously, prioritizing any paid options is always good. And I've broken it down into, depending on how long you want to take your sabbatical for, if it's a matter of a few weeks, so let's say 4 weeks, a month, or multiple months, then there's solutions for that. So it really just depends on you doing the research. So you do have to do some work for you to be able to understand what are the options that are on the table. And you might need to dig a little bit for this, because some companies aren't so great at promoting their time off options to you. So do a little bit of digging. It really only takes a few minutes once you kind of find on your intranet, or if you're in a super old school company, if there's an employee handbook, to see what the options are. If you can't find that, you can always have a conversation with human resources and just make it super high level. Just be like, I want to understand what the flexible work arrangements are. What are the requirements for qualifying for them? Are there any caveats and returning back from those, or things that you need to do ahead of time or once you return? So I encourage being creative and looking at ways that you can combine some of these options. So for example, if you're looking for a month off, you could combine some paid time off that you've accrued plus unpaid time off. That is an option. Some companies do offer formal sabbatical programs after you work for that company for a certain number of years. And those, a lot of times I've seen those being paid either at 100% or a certain percentage of your normal salary. But then there's also, especially if you're looking at taking multiple months off, a leave of absence is something that could also be considered. And that's actually how I took my year-long break from my consulting job, is through a leave of absence. And I'll share a bit of a story on how I was able to negotiate that. And for any entrepreneurs that are tuning in, let me know in the chat if you're an entrepreneur. Give me a yes. I want to make sure that you know that you can do this. You can take this time off without killing your business. And some people have shared with me, Susie, I want to take a sabbatical, but I'm worried that I'm going to lose all my clients and my business is just going to tank. Well, if you do it in the right way with the proper planning, then it is possible. And I'm guessing that one of the biggest reasons why you started a business is for freedom. But I understand personally that sometimes we're our own worst bosses. But I want you to take a look at how you can systematize and create a team that can make your business work while you are not working. I highly recommend the book Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. I just finished that, and it's absolutely something that I'm going to be implementing for my next sabbatical to make sure that things continue and you can continue to make money while you are on a break. So I wanted to highlight Chuck and Renee. They're a great combination of an entrepreneur, Chuck. He's a realtor with his own business, and Renee, who's an employee. They're both going together to Europe for 3 months. Renee is going to be taking a leave of absence. Chuck's working on building up his team to be able to work without him during the summer months. And I'm very excited for them. So this is just one example on, if you're clear on what you want, you can figure out that way to make it work. And neither of them are quitting their jobs. So secret number 2, you do not need to worry that a sabbatical will quote unquote hurt your career. In fact, I think it will help it. And here's why. So before we get into it, I want to see if these fears resonate with you. Again, in the chat, a yes. Share what those fears are about you. And this could just be taking even a few days off, let alone a month. I get it. I have been in your shoes. It's very easy, especially as an employee, to think, well, I'm going to be seen as replaceable, or maybe I'm not committed enough to my job if I take time off. If I am asking for a sabbatical, then that's going to create such a burden. It's going to hurt my career and, my promotion potential. And, or maybe I'm on board, but I'm just worried that I'm going to get this request rejected. And for entrepreneurs, as I mentioned earlier, the fear of being forgotten and away for a period of time, losing money and clients from not working, those are totally understandable fears. I get it. So I'm going to share with you some benefits of sabbaticals as proven by science. And the first couple, those are going to be pretty obvious, right? You've got reduced stress, improved well-being, of course, rest and relaxation, getting rejuvenated. That's what you would expect. But I want to dig into the last three a little bit more in terms of increasing your creativity, problem-solving skills, and productivity by taking a sabbatical. So studies have shown all of these things have occurred by people taking sabbaticals, and those benefits were increased even more when they were traveling internationally. Because if you think about it, simple things that we take for granted, like what do you eat for breakfast, you don't think twice about that when you're at home, but when you're in a new country, especially one that you don't speak the same language, then those things that are simple and normal in day-to-day life then become a little bit more challenging. You have to figure out, okay, how do I get to, let's say, the bakery that I want to go to? How do I order? I don't even know what this food is. So you have to problem solve on the fly and think differently, because when you're in a different environment, even it doesn't have to be international, but even going, let's say, to the next state over, sometimes things are done differently there. And you get a different perspective and see how life can be lived in a different way than maybe what you are used to. And by having that additional time off, that really increases your productivity, because of course, if you're more creative and you're problem solving and you just have that time to clear out the cobwebs in your brain, then you're going to be returning back to work even more productive. Now, I really wanted to take a minute and talk through the employer benefits, because this is something that surprised me when I first read it, but it all makes sense when you dig into it. And I'm going to really spell out these benefits. And these are going to be really important when you go into that conversation with your employer when you are asking for a sabbatical. It's all about, as I'll share, how you spin it. So if you are taking a sabbatical, the company and your team is actually going to be benefited, not burdened by that time off. So because you are taking a longer period of time off, the work still has to happen, right? But somebody else is going to have to do that in your absence. But what that opportunity really, what occurs is that there is an opportunity for growth for somebody else on your team, and something that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do when you're there, but it allows the company to also evaluate the succession planning. Can this person potentially do your work? So then when you return, they can maybe even just hang on to that responsibility and continue on with it and really set you up for even higher level work. Because you're going to come back with increased vision clarity. Again, as I mentioned in the last slide, you're going to have a different perspective to share. You're not going to be coming from the weeds. It's really hard to solve a problem when you're in those weeds and stuck in the day-to-day. But with the time away, you can come back and have that new ideas, different ways to solve those problems, and that's going to elevate your career. And the last thing that I wanted to share in terms of the cross training, every company needs to do cross training, but it's generally very, very low on the priority list, right? It's something that doesn't happen, but if something were to happen to you at any point in time, they would need to have somebody know how to do your job. And by taking a sabbatical, it's just forcing that it's forcing that conversation, right? And those actions to be able to cross-train your knowledge and get the things out of your brain and into somebody else's. So the other thing, just in terms of considering for a sabbatical, what does that mean for the employer? Now, if you put yourself in their shoes, wouldn't you rather have an employee take a preventative break with plenty of notice instead of that last minute medical leave due to burnout? I mean, that serves no one in that situation. That's a lose-lose. But really, preparing for a sabbatical isn't that different than a maternity leave because you're giving them plenty of notice. It's a positive thing, except it just doesn't involve doctors. And you're going to be coming back, I'm sure, a lot more rested and relaxed than a new mom. So it's all about as how you spin it. Being in consulting for 13 years, I know how to spin things and make it a win-win. So it's all about coming prepared, clearly identifying the benefits to the company, your manager, your team, whoever you're speaking to, knowing what's important to them and being able to proactively provide solutions. So coming with that transition plan of who's going to be doing your work, how is that all going to be covered while you're away, really address those fears that they're going to have proactively. And in the program, I spell all of that out in terms of how to have those conversations, tools and templates to make the transitioning super easy. It's something I did in my old position in consulting all the time. So second nature to me, but it's probably new to you. And having that step-by-step is really going to help you. And here's just a couple examples of those fears versus reality. So for Jan, when we were taking our year-long career break, the reason why we did that was because Jan's company got acquired by a larger company. We didn't want to relocate. So I said to him, Jan, you can find a new job now, or you can find a new job later. And he was not on board for probably a couple months. I had to chip away and work at him because he had all of these fears, and I get it. You know, he was worried that in taking a year off, he was going to get rusty and he wasn't going to be able to keep up with technology. His job was in e-commerce. And of course, technology is very important to him. And he was, just worried about the perception that would give somebody that he would be interviewing with. But I also said, well, Jan, if somebody, a new employer that you're interviewing with doesn't understand, then that's probably not a company that you want to work for anyway. But, fast forward, we returned back from our year break. He found a new job actually in consulting. So he completely changed. Previously, he was working in corporate for retailers, and he moved into consulting, and he's been really happy with the shift. And I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't have done that before. He would have, continued working in jobs, and, he wasn't happy, especially come Christmas time and all the busy seasons. So now we can actually enjoy Christmas, which is fantastic. And for me, my biggest fear with that experience was asking for the leave of absence. So like I said, I did the research. I realized, okay, the company I worked for offered a leave of absence, but I was real nervous for this conversation. I mean, I was fully expecting and preparing myself that I would need to quit. And I was okay with that. But I scheduled the conversation with HR, palms were sweaty. My stomach was in knots. I was worried about this meeting for weeks, right? I convinced myself that it just was impossible. I didn't know anybody who had ever done that. So I was like, well, whatever, I'm just going to ask. And I had the conversation with HR. There was some back and forth, but ultimately he was like, here, just fill out this form. And that was it. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was just, so worried about this. And then you're just telling me that I only have to fill out a form. I mean, there was more to it, of course, but from a paperwork standpoint, that was it. It was that simple. We just build up these stories in our head. And this is just a prime example, both both Jan and I, prime example of really getting into our heads too much. And once we push past, hi Bridget, once we push past those fears, then all the good stuff is on the other side. So my third secret is you don't need to be rich to take a sabbatical. Now, my guess is that you're doing the math wrong. Sabbatical travel isn't as expensive as you think it is, especially if you are calculating it based on whatever you normally spend on a week vacation and just multiplying that by 4 if, let's say, you want to take a month off. Well, that is incorrect math because you are likely not doing 4 round trip flights to far off destinations in 1 month. And on a sabbatical, you may choose different accommodations. You may travel slower. Both of those things can have a huge impact and lower costs on your sabbatical. Now, the 2 biggest factors of sabbatical travel, when you are planning to travel for a month or longer, the destination that you choose is going to be the number 1 cost driver. So your on-the-ground expenses vary very, very greatly by the destination or the country that you choose. So for example, a low-cost country like Thailand, you can, for the second point, the level of service. So really, when you combine the destination with the level of service, that's where you can figure out what the best solution is for you. Because, of course, that there's wide ranges of accommodations, and the costs of where you stay vary greatly in any one given destination. But when you compare that between 2 countries, you can potentially have a very different experience for the same amount of money. So for example, you could have a 5-star all the way luxury sabbatical and experience in Thailand for the same amount of money that you would get a 3-star, like kind of mid-range experience in a place like Iceland. So where you go on that sabbatical is going to have huge implications for your overall budget on your sabbatical. Now, the other thing that you're likely concerned about is not only if you do choose to travel during your sabbatical and those expenses, is also your expenses back at home. Unless you are especially taking a significant amount of time off where those expenses might stop if if you're, let's say, selling your car, then if you're not doing that, then those expenses will still continue to exist. But you can think creatively about how you can pay for some of those and maybe even get paid for it. The sharing economy is so hot right now. So take advantage of that. Can you do short-term rentals? Maybe you can even work out a house swapping. I don't know if you've seen the Holiday movie, but was it Cameron Diaz? And I'm blanking on her name. But anyway, they swap houses between London and LA. You could do that too. So really start thinking outside of the box to figure out ways that you can save money. There's even ways to do that with a car, even for a short-term amount of time. If you aren't using your car, somebody else can, and maybe you get paid for that. And if you have monthly subscriptions or payments, maybe there's ways that you could stop those for a month. So you can start saving or potentially even earning some money while you are away. Now, this is something that really surprised a lot of people when we shared that for our year-long sabbatical or career break, we actually spent less in that year traveling to all 7 continents than our typical annual expenses living in Chicago. Now, we aren't super extravagant people. We do live in downtown Chicago, so that may be more or less expensive than, living where you are. But the fact stands that by traveling, and we traveled fast, as I mentioned in the slide, 3.5 nights on average in any given destination. We saw a lot, we accomplished a lot. Like I said, all 7 continents, and Antarctica was by far the most we had ever paid for any trip, period. It is expensive to do for various reasons, but so 100% worth it. I could have a whole conversation about Antarctica. It's my favorite place on earth. I'm so happy we did that. But the thing is that, you know, we managed our costs and we averaged those costs, you know, over the course of a year. We went and did some really expensive things like Antarctica, but then we also saved money in traveling in places like Southeast Asia. So over time, those costs all kind of average out into a more reasonable daily average. So I just want to offer this up, that whatever number might be in your head of how much your dream sabbatical might take, it might not actually be that expensive. So do the research. Don't just immediately write off your dreams as too expensive before you even start looking into the costs. Instead, you know, ask yourself better questions instead of being like, oh, woe is me, I can't afford it. Instead, ask yourself, how can you afford this? How can you make this possible? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you do tomorrow, in the next month, or even the next year. But if you've got your eye on the prize of what you want, then you can make that happen. I know that that is possible. You can just think a little bit more creatively. So for example, I mean, I've got tons and tons of cost saving tips, and I share so many in the program, but just at a high level, how can you use loyalty programs to use your airline miles, hotel points, credit card rewards? How can you get deals on airfare? I mean, there's so many ways that you can take advantage of possibilities to really cut down on those costs and make whatever you are dreaming about for your sabbatical a reality. So, whoops, I skipped right over that. Fourth secret, it is you shouldn't wait for the perfect time, because there is no perfect time. So what do I encourage? Just look for a good time. Now, time is your only non-renewable resource. Time is way more important, and you know, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. Time is already in the past, and I want you to give yourself enough time to plan and get organized and not be stressed about it, but don't wait too long, because you never know what's going to happen. Like I said earlier, life is short, things can change. Your ability to travel or do whatever it is that you are dreaming about can change. So carpe diem, seize the day, is really the message that I encourage. How do you find a good time? Now, this is boiling. I, again, go into way more detail in the program in terms of the how to identify that right time for you, or a good time. But it ultimately boils down into just laying out all of your commitments personally and professionally on that calendar, and just seeing, are there some open windows, and then picking one. Now, yes, this is oversimplified. There's more to it, but at the end of the day, we like to make things more complicated than they actually are, when truly it is that simple. If this is something that you want, you will make happen. And it's just about figuring out a good time, because you're going to want to overanalyze and think too hard about it when, you know, nothing's going to line up 100% perfectly. There's always going to be something that might be maybe not exactly right, but you know what, what's that best time out of the options that you've got looking straight at you in that calendar? Just pick one of those. And I want to highlight a story of Bia. She's from Brazil, Sao Paulo. For her, I worked with her and talked with her, and she really just got to that point of burnout. So many things happened in her life in a short period of time between divorce. She got a great paying job, but was just always on the road, constantly stressed, to the point where she needed to go on medication, but that impacted her performance at work. And she wasn't herself, and she realized, you know what, she needed to make a change in her life. And she found me and decided that, you know, a sabbatical was the solution, but she was still, you know, feeling like she was holding herself back because she thought, well, sabbatical is only for rich people. But again, once you figure out that you can go past whatever those barriers are, you can find another way. So she budgeted, she figured out all of the financial details and found low cost ways to travel. Travel, like I said, does not need to be expensive. And for her, the timing was right. Although it wasn't perfect, she would have preferred more time to plan and figure things out. She takes care of her grandma, and her grandma's health was improving. And she realized, okay, I've got this window to go. If I don't go now, when will I? Because like I said, your life situation can change at any moment. So, it's really, time is of the essence to just find that window and make it happen. So secret number 5, you don't have to wait for other people. Now, I've talked to so many people that are like, oh, well, I could maybe get some time off, but my, significant other can't. So we'll just wait. But think outside the box. You can go on your own. You can, if you're a bit worried about traveling solo, that's okay. There are group tours or volunteer groups that you can join. So you are plugged into a community. You can also be creative about how you mix and match your time. Maybe, some travel companions meet you and then your significant other meets you for another period of that sabbatical. Or you can proactively go and visit family and friends. There's just so many ways that you can slice it and dice it. It doesn't need to be like, you as a couple or a family traveling the entire duration all at the same time. So break through that idea. And once you do that, that can open up some new possibilities. So families in particular, a lot of times, maybe both parents can't take that that same time off. And you also, if you have school age children, have to work around school schedules, but none of this is impossible. You can really work around these. Maybe you even travel with some of the kids individually, so you can have some of that unique one-on-one time, especially if you have multiple children. And I really encourage getting the grandparents involved. Not only could they maybe watch your kids during part of that, but you could have an amazing multi-generational part of your sabbatical where you have that family time together to make those memories with the people that you care about the most. So one example, I did this for my 3rd sabbatical. I traveled solo in the beginning and end. This was when I first started my business, and I went to a couple travel conferences. They were my first conferences in the industry. So that was such an amazing time for me to dig into, my new business and devote some time to that. I also had some friends come and meet me for about a week and a half in Oahu. And then later my husband joined me for a couple weeks in Maui. So it was just a perfect combination of, mixing and matching of friends and my husband and also some alone time. So it is possible. Now, the 6th secret is you don't have to do all the things to create your perfect sabbatical. And this goes for any trip, really. There's so much pressure on ourselves to play hard because we work hard, we have to play hard, right? But less is more. Avoid that temptation to squeeze in too much because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Really, the magic happens when you travel slow. If you have less pre-scheduled things on your calendar, you've got enough in your day-to-day life that's scheduled out for you. I still do want you and encourage you to prioritize the things that are most important to you, especially if that's core to your dream. If, let's say, you want to learn how to do something and maybe take a cooking class in Italy, for example, that you would need to pre-schedule in order to make that happen. But as much as possible, be open to spontaneity and doing the things that will fill you up and being able to be flexible to react to how you're going to be feeling at that time. Now, you can't keep the same pace as you normally might do for a week or two if you are looking at taking a sabbatical that's, a month longer than that, especially. It's a different way of life. And so just don't try to take what you normally do, multiply that by, 4 or 2, whatever it is. That's not going to serve you. And it's not going to allow you to dig into those deeper reasons why you want a sabbatical. And that's what I want for you. So take it from me. I've made the mistakes for you. So I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do all of the things. Just make sure to carve out space and time for you to just be, because that is so rare in life that you can be disconnected and just listen and do what you want when you want. I mean, that's really what a sabbatical is all about. So an example of this, Becky and Josh, I'm working with them on planning their sabbatical in Hawaii. They've got 2 kids, 1.5 and 4 years old. They're also going to be going with Becky's mom to Hawaii. We really tried to minimize the activities that we plan for them as much as possible. So booked a couple of the most important things for them, but mostly it's just going to be relaxation time. You know, they need it, especially Josh is in a really high pressure job. And they just want that time to connect with their family, which is going to be so special. I'm so excited for them. But they're also doing a bit of a combination for their time too, in that after Hawaii, they're going to be dropping their kids off with Josh's parents and then having some couple time in Mexico. So that'll be really good for them to rest and relax, have the family time, but then also alone time as a couple. Now, my last secret is you don't have to plan the trip by yourself. Now, I became a travel advisor 4 years ago, and before I did that, I really, like you might be thinking, thought that travel advisors were a thing of the past. They were extinct, but that's just not true. And travel advisors can save you hours of time and stress with the planning, because you are working with an expert who is planning travel every single day. Even though you may be wonderful at planning trips for yourself, you're probably not doing it every day. So the big thing too is that our relationships that we build with hotels and tour operators and tourism boards all around the world allow us to VIP you, give you that insider access, which is phenomenal. Now, I've been working one-on-one with clients for the last several years, and I've always really leaned strongly towards trips that were longer in duration, just based on my background of taking sabbaticals. And I wanted an opportunity to help more people. But of course, working one-on-one with clients, there's a certain cap on my time and the number of people that I can serve. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I chose to create this program, which I will be sharing a bit more details on. But I just want to show kind of like up until this date, this new experience and program that I'm creating, I've helped hundreds of people plan trips to all 7 continents. Here's just a couple reviews on some of the most exciting trips that I've planned to Antarctica for Alessandro, he goes by Alex, and Meredith, she went with her friends to Southeast Asia. There are just really, it's a different level. If you're used to planning your own trips and, you know, hitting up Google and Travel Advisor or TripAdvisor and all of the websites and, you know, just going down the Google black hole, there is a different solution for you. So I'm talking here just about the power of travel advisors in general. I highly recommend them to you to use for any trip. But of course, I saw that gap in the market of people being able to help people who want to take longer trips like sabbaticals. So I want to check in with you and see, let me know in the comments, the chat below, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong are these barriers? Or you can just say, let me know if in the comments, if some of those initial fears or those big barriers that you had before I shared my 7 secrets, what was I able to lessen some of those barriers that are really holding you back from taking a sabbatical? So was I able to address, you know, how to get the time off of work, how you're going to pay for it, and just timing. So I really addressed all 3 of these throughout my 7 secrets, and I would love to know in the comments below what you learned, what were some of your takeaways, or just let me know with the yes if I was able to help you kind of chip away at those barriers and maybe start seeing that a sabbatical could be a reality in your life. So tell me this, how much would it mean to you if you could take a month or more and have the freedom to do these things that you would love to do, to whatever it is, if that's connecting with loved ones, relaxing, achieving some personal goals, or learning something new, just really being able to devote time to your mental and physical health and giving back to those in need. Let me know in the chat, how much that would mean. What would that bring to you and your life if you were able to do those things that, currently are on your someday list? But I want that to actually be something that you can start doing and start taking action on. So I'm not sure why you showed up today. Maybe you're feeling burnt out. You could be looking for a big life change. Maybe you just love to travel and want to figure out how you can do more of that in your life. That was definitely me. I've got the travel, obviously, as a travel advisor, I've got the travel bug pretty bad. So I'm always looking for opportunities to travel. And maybe you've been thinking about taking a sabbatical for a while. You could have already gone down that path a bit, maybe done some Googling and research about it. But maybe this is the very first time that you're hearing about taking a sabbatical, or maybe you just saw me online and wanted to hang out, that's cool too. But I want to just encourage you and support you and let you know that you can make your dreams happen. So I know that you're probably going to think this is super cheesy, but it's true. And I believe in you. I know that you have these dreams that you have been sitting on your shelf that you want to do, but just haven't had the time to do it. And it really comes down to making that decision and commitment to yourself. You owe it to yourself to give yourself that time to dig in and achieve those dreams much sooner. Sooner is always better than later, right? And I don't want you to be waiting until you retire to live out and live your best life. Now, I'm not that special. You might be thinking, oh, well, you've taken 4 sabbaticals and you know how to do it. Well, especially when I was taking that first sabbatical, that first month-long sabbatical, and I definitely didn't know what I was doing when we were taking that year-long sabbatical. I mean, that was a whole different beast. So I've done it. I understand the differences between the two. I was very uncomfortable, so many fears. I was definitely scared to make that commitment. But I gave myself permission to go after what I wanted. I knew that I needed that time for myself to disconnect, unplug, remove myself from that stress and that burnout that I was feeling in my consulting job. And I pushed past those fears. Like I had no idea how I was going to do it and how I was going to get there. But I was like, you know what? I want this and I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I definitely made plenty of mistakes along the way, but I was committed. And I want you to have that same level of commitment to yourself, to stop living by other people's rules, other people's designs, or by default, really, and truly living into your purpose and by your design. So if you've been on this call this long, first of all, thank you. I know you have the desire and the ability to take a sabbatical. So you have the choice. You can spend minimum 40 hours guessing what to Google, piecemealing your plan together. The information is out there. But I want to save you time. And this is exactly the program that I wish that I had when I was first taking a sabbatical. And you don't know what you don't know if you've never done this before. So I was just doing my best Googling work, but I wasted so many hours, probably 20 hours just of wasted time going down paths. And like I said, going down the black hole, but not finding the answers that I thought I was searching for. So really, the Sabbatical Suitcase program, I'm so excited to announce this to you. It's a complete step-by-step roadmap with tools that will help you plan a sabbatical without confusion and overwhelm. to get you from just this idea phase that you're in right now all the way through the planning and preparation and to taking a sabbatical. And even when you return back to a sabbatical, I know what that feels like, and I can step you through and guide you through that process. But it prepares you professionally, personally, and financially. So this is not just about the trip, it's about holistic planning and really giving you the tools that you need to feel confident and prepared to take that trip. And this is something, like I said, most people aren't doing this. You probably don't have anybody in your inner circle that has done something like that, to be able to turn to and say, well, what did you do here? And that's really what we're creating in terms of not only this program, but also a community of people who are taking sabbaticals, can step you through and relate to you. Because again, there's a power in being surrounded by a community of like-minded people that can support each other. So what's included? It's a 4-module online course with short instructional videos and complementary tools that will prepare you for that sabbatical and just fast track you to get from this, again, idea or the sabbatical seed, as I like to call it. If that's planted in here and you're thinking, yeah, I think this is something that I can do, it will take you and tell you exactly what you need to do without the guesswork and endless Googling that you might have to do if you are attempting to do this on your own. Now you get lifetime access, including any updates. We're going to be continually improving this program. But like I said, this is the first time that I'm offering this to you. And so because of that, I'm offering it at a very, very special low rate. You guys have been, especially if you're joining me on the Facebook page, you've been following me for a while, and I really want to invite you to join this program at the lowest rate it's ever going to be, because I feel so strongly for you, and I want to thank you for following me and for listening to my messages. And I hope that the community that, you know, I've already kind of established with the Facebook page, I'm going to be creating a Facebook group that's going to be private just for the people who enroll in the program to help each other out. Like I said, there is a power in community and helping each other out, encouraging each other, because although you've made this commitment, if you decide to join me inside the program, there's going to be, you know, things where you're going to, you know, maybe be second guessing yourself, because this is outside of the norm. And I understand that, and I can absolutely help. But you can also talk with other people who are in the same position as you, and, you know, everybody can help each other out. And that's what I'm most excited about. So what does the planning process look like? So like I said, there's 4 modules, and that's broken down by the high level process of defining, designing, developing, and discovering. And you can see the little stars are really the milestones between those steps in the process, where you decide that what date you're going to go. So once you've got that on the calendar, that's a really exciting place to be. You know, that's what makes it real. Then once you start depositing or start financially committing to your sabbatical, then that makes it even more real. So we're going to step through all those processes and then really just develop out that plan before you depart on your sabbatical, which is obviously the most exciting milestone. So here's a description of each of these 4 steps and what is included in that. And it's broken down into little mini modules within it, short videos where I'm going to separate out you know, step by step, everything that you need to do. So you can watch a little chunk at a time, but defining, that's really going to define what is it that you want out of sabbatical? How are you going to make it happen? So that's really digging into like the who, what, where, when, why, how. So we've got little mini modules to attack each of those things. And really the goal of the overall module is for you to define what you want and how are you going to get it. Then, you know, once you decide on that date, you can move into the fun stuff. You can design what, especially if travel is a big piece of what you want to do, designing that trip, figuring out and refining that budget that you're going to need to take that trip, or to fund whatever it is. Maybe you have a different goal for your time off. but you're really going to figure out what does that budget look like, especially if you are in a job where you would need to transition your work either as an entrepreneur, an employee. How are you going to prepare yourself professionally for this time off? And then start making the deposits and really getting your trip booked and all the plans in place. The third module, develop, that's where you're going to outline that plan of everything that you need to do to prepare personally, professionally, financially, and even mentally to make sure you're in that right headspace to make the most of your time off. And then after you depart, then you have the last module, which is discovery. So how do you maximize your time away from the office to do some self-discovery? I'm going to give you plenty of helpful tips and tools to help you on the road, especially if you are traveling during that time. But one of the things that it might be too far in the future to even consider, but it is a really important step of the process, is once you return back and reintegrate into your real life, there is an important step of evaluating what you learned on your sabbatical and figuring out what do you want to change. Are there new habits or things you want to do differently as a result of taking your sabbatical? How can you make these lasting changes and not just a wonderful sabbatical dream that you did and then you're right back to where you started before you left? I don't want that for you. So we've got plenty of additional tools, templates, bonuses. These are just 4 kind of core tools and templates, but there are so many more. So these, the itinerary planner to keep your trip organized, budget calculator to help you figure out how much are you going to need to budget for your dream sabbatical, the preparation timeline, what's that checklist of everything that you need to do and when you need to do it, so you're not guessing or worried that you're missing something. And the packing checklist. There's things on here that aren't on your typical 1 or 2 week trip because you're going to be traveling differently. And I want to highlight all of those and make it super easy for you in these templates that are really plug and play. And honestly, you can use these for any trip. So these are not only going to help you with your sabbatical, but you can reuse these over again and again. So I'm sure you're wondering, okay, how much is this going to cost me? And I just want to go through your options. You don't have to take a sabbatical. There are other options. You could, of course, stay status quo, do nothing. If you're currently feeling stressed and anxious and not having enough time for loved ones and pursuing your dreams, then that's just going to continue. I don't want that for you. And I know that change is hard, but if you don't change, then you're just going to, like I said in the beginning of the call, fast forward those, 5-10 years, you're going to be in the same place. And I don't want you living with regrets. So if the biggest struggle for you, especially is, that stress, anxiety, you could always go to a therapist, a career coach, a life coach. They can help you too, but that's going to really cost you likely hundreds of dollars per session to work with them. And the last option is one that I really don't want for you, which is waiting until that burnout is so bad that you need to take a medical leave and therefore spend thousands of dollars on medical care. Nobody wants that. So please don't wait, be proactive. But if you've been listening to me thus far and you said, okay, well, I do think a sabbatical is the solution for me. I see how giving myself that time and space to pursue my dreams, evaluate life, and do the things, honestly, just do the things that you want in your life, living life on your own terms, then, you have 2 options as I see it. You can, of course, Google your life away. And I estimate that of those, at least 40 hours, 20, a solid half of those were just purely wasted time where I hit brick walls, dead ends. I didn't find what I was looking for. Your time is valuable, and I want to make sure that you are making the most of your time. Like I said in the beginning, time is your most valuable non-renewable resource. So your time is important, and I don't want you wasting it. And I also do offer one-on-one sabbatical services at $125 per travel day. So if you want full personalized service for an entire month, that would be almost $4,000. So that could be really cost prohibitive to some of you. And I want to make sure that I can help as many people take a sabbatical as possible, because I know what that has meant for me and my life. And I want that same thing for you. I want you to be able to live your dreams. And so that's why I created the Sabbatical Suitcase program. And honestly, the value of the resources alone, these tools are at least $400, just that alone, let alone the step-by-step program and the community that I'm offering. But I am offering to the founding members, so that could be you, the lowest price that it is going to be offered, and that you can start at $117 today, plus 2 additional payments, so 3 total payments of $117 to join me in the program today. Now, you can save money too if you decide that you want to pay in full. So instead of spreading those payments out over 3 months, you can pay in full, save $54, and pay a one-time payment of $297 to get in on all of this. So it's the step-by-step modules that go through the whole process, beginning to end, along with plenty of tools and resources like the planning timeline, budget calculator, itinerary planner, packing list, and so much more. Now, I don't want you feeling on the fence because you are worried about it not working for you. And I am offering a 60-day money-back guarantee, 100% satisfaction. You can try the entire system for 60 days risk-free. And I want you to be satisfied with your purchase. I don't want unhappy customers, but I do want to make sure that you are putting in the effort and committing to yourself. So I just ask that you do the work. But if you decide that that's not the right decision, then just show what you've done so far, and you can get a request a refund from me, no questions asked. And just to remind you, that fast action bonus, if you decide to join me now before the end of the call, I'm offering that one-on-one budgeting strategy session with me, a 30-minute laser focused call. We're going to dig into the details, dig into the numbers, figure out how to make your dream work within your budget. Now that alone is so valuable. If that is what is holding you back, is I'm not sure about, the money. I know that that's a huge common hold up for people because they think that a sabbatical is more expensive than it actually is. So I don't want you being on the fence, thinking that it's just too expensive, because as I explained earlier, it doesn't have to be. Travel isn't as expensive as you think it might be, and we can make it work. So we'll dig in with you if you take action and join the program before the end of the call. And I also have one pay in full bonus. So if you do decide that you want to join and you pay in full, then I'm going to provide you with a cost breakdown by country. So this is going to give you the per person per day costs in a variety of countries, I think over 150. So probably will cover wherever you're thinking about going. This is going to be so helpful, especially if you are debating between multiple places that you want to go. This will give you exact estimates depending on the, as I say, level of service, or if you want like 3, 4, or 5-star type of experience, you're going to see the cost differences between each of those. So you can make an educated budget and create that to figure out exactly how much this is going to cost and budget accordingly. That also includes the seasonality by country. And that's important because if you see and you realize that you want to go to a country in low or shoulder season, then you can save a good 20% of your overall budget compared to if you go during high season. So these numbers and figures are not available to the public. I have access to them through my Consortia Virtuoso, and I want to share them with you if you decide that you want to pay in full. So where do I sign up? You can sign up at carpediemtraveler.com/sabbatical suitcase, or I will type it in the chat, the link to the direct link to the page. Let me get that in the chat. So I just dropped that link in the chat if you want to visit the page, or in the comments, I should say. So if you want to join me. Now, the doors and the opportunity for this founding member price expires, and the doors close on Wednesday, this Wednesday, October 23rd at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Now, I do have one more option if you want to save even more time, and let me get into that. So you can choose to add on travel planning services to your sabbatical suitcase, and that gets you more time and attention and accountability. From me, you will get 3 one-on-one calls spaced throughout the program to help you at different points in time and hold you accountable to make sure that you are getting clear with what you want, defining that plan. I will help you through any, fears or roadblocks or challenges that you're facing one-on-one in a private setting. So we'll have a 60-minute call in the beginning of the program. Ideally, after you complete module 1 and have an idea of what you want, we can start tweaking that and really defining how to make the most out of your time and committing to that departure date. Then we'll have a 30-minute session about a month before you depart to prepare you, make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, answer any last-minute questions that you have to make you feel confident and ready for your sabbatical. And then finally, a 30-minute call once you return to evaluate how your experience was, recap that, figure out, like I said before, what changes do you want to make in life, and create a plan that is something that you can hold on to those benefits as you move forward back into your real life. But I'm also going to be pairing you with a travel planner that is in the agency that I'm affiliated with. And I'm going to pair you based on where you want to go and what you want to do, your travel style. I'm going to pair you a hand-picked travel advisor that I feel is best to serve you. And they're going to do all of the travel planning for you. So that's going to save you tons of time and really eliminate the need for you to do multiple of the modules that are sub pieces, sub modules that I have in my program, because it's going to be done for you instead of you having to do it on your own. So here are the 2 options. I already covered the sabbatical suitcase, your step-by-step instructions, all the tools and templates that you need, the Facebook community of sabbatical seekers and the people that are like-minded and also preparing for their sabbatical journey, live group Q&A calls inside that group, lifetime access, your 60-day money-back guarantee. So if you choose to add on travel planning services, you, of course, get all of that, plus you get the 3 one-on-one calls with me and your personalized travel planning services. So that gives you massive time savings. And of course, the VIP service that is available when you are working with an expert. So if you're debating between the 2 and you're trying to figure out which one's best for you, I outlined it below. So the sabbatical suitcase is definitely the most affordable option that still gets you the results that you want. It gets you on the road, taking that sabbatical and living out your dreams. The sabbatical suitcase is also good for people who really enjoy planning their own trips, especially if you like having the control of all of the pieces. It's going to give you helpful tools to help enhance your current travel planning routine that you do, but it also gives you guidance in terms of how planning a sabbatical is different than just your normal vacation. This is also good for those advanced travelers who are comfortable with new destinations, handling unknowns or emergencies on the road. Now, you're going to want the travel planning services if your number 1 priority is to save time. I know you are busy. And that's probably one of the reasons why you need a sabbatical, is because you're always stressed and doing things and feeling anxious, and you have a to-do list a mile long. So we don't want to minimize that for you and still get you the results, but save you even more time. But it's also additional accountability. So by having those calls with me and working with a travel planner to be able to plan out all of your trips, or all the details of your trip, then you're going to be able to stay on track, because again, in your busy life, planning that sabbatical might be lower on your priority list, but I want to make sure that you are doing all the things that you need to do to feel comfortable and confident to hit the road. And working with a travel advisor, you will, and myself as well, with those one-on-one calls, you'll get that personalized assistance, that expert service. You know, I've gone through this 4 times. I know the ropes, and I want to share the lessons that I've learned with you to shortcut, and make sure that you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations that I have. I want to make it as easy as possible for you. And lastly, you're going to like the travel planning services if you really like the assistance in the planning process, as well as in case of emergency when you're traveling. So if something goes wrong, having that travel planning service really, really helps you. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for joining. And then in terms of the additional value that you're going to get with that service. So the 3 one-on-one calls with me are a $500 value. The time savings alone, I mean, I estimate that you would be saving at least 10 hours by giving the work to do the travel planning to a professional. And that's just for a simple 4-week trip. Now, if you're doing something complicated, then that estimate increases significantly. But really, how much is 10 hours of your life worth to you? What could you do with that 10 hours? There's plenty of things that you could do, like spend time with loved ones and do all those things that you want to do, but aren't currently doing in your life because you're so stressed, and running like a chicken with your head cut off. I want to make sure to give you an opportunity to save you as much time as possible. And working with an advisor, there's a potential for money savings, but definitely for added value and perks. So the American Society of Travel Advisors, they did a study, and it showed that in working with an advisor, clients saved an average of $452 per trip. And that's for your average American vacation. So probably a week. Now, I personally, when working with Becky and Josh on their trip to Hawaii, I had insider information, so I knew that a promotion was going to be going down at one of the resorts that they are staying at, and I was able to save them $3,000 between a couple rooms that they had. That is massive, massive savings. Now, I can't guarantee you that you're going to save that much, but the potential is there in working with an expert. Expedia isn't going to tell you, oh, there's a promotion that's going to be dropping. So if you want to book it a week from now versus today, you could save $3,000. It's not going to do that. So there is a huge inherent value in working with experts that have the right relationships. And because of those relationships, we can give you extra amenities, especially, for those splurge stays throughout your sabbatical. But I would say more than anything, when it comes down to it, the accountability, the support, and that mistake avoidance, especially if you're planning a complex, long trip, the potential for making mistakes increases even more. And you want to make sure that you're working with an expert. So in working with and adding on the travel planning services, I mean, that's priceless in my opinion. So here is the cost breakdown of the 2 options. If you choose to invest in the sabbatical suitcase, as I mentioned earlier, you can pay in full at $297 or 3 monthly payments of $117. Or if you want to add on the travel planning services, then you can choose to pay in full at $797 and save. Or if you decide to spread out those payments over a period of 6 months, your monthly payment would be $147 US. Now, you'll still be getting, if you pay in full, that full cost breakdown, which is going to make budgeting a breeze. And if you choose the travel planning service, then I've got this beautiful coffee table book. As you can see, it's thick. This is like 5 pounds of travel inspiration. So it's got tons of travel inspiration, especially from a hotel, if you like hotels. We're just like looking and being inspired by travel inspiration, then this is for you. So these are really your two options. I've got the link in the chat box or the comments below, so you can go get all of the information. I mean, really everything that I've shared so far. But one thing that I wanted to highlight, a couple questions that you might have just in how the program works. So I'm going to be releasing, if you sign up, then you'll immediately get access to Module 0, which is kind of your welcome. Let's get orientated and introduced to the program. But I'm going to be releasing modules over a period of 8 weeks. So every 2 weeks, I'm going to release a module, with the first one going in on October 24th, so Thursday. And I want to just highlight, you do not need to follow this schedule. This is just when the content's going to be available to you, because you're probably more concerned about how long does it's not a problem, it's definitely very helpful. So how long does the program take? And I just want to highlight that you have lifetime access. You'll get any updates made to improve the program in the future as we iterate on this, and more people provide that feedback, and I'm able to make improvements. Each module is broken down into bite-sized chunks. Each video within the module is only a few minutes, so you can kind of take it step by step whenever you have those little gaps in your schedule, and you can attack it kind of bit by bit. You don't have to, you can of course binge it, that is possible, but I also want to make sure that you know that it's not just the program. Again, the community is where it's going to be at. So live Q&A calls going down in the private Facebook group, just for the people who choose to enroll in the program. So you're going to be in that safe space of people who are also going after their dreams, living their best life, and supporting each other along the way. So that is so important. You can be on whatever pace you have. You've got that lifetime access, especially if a sabbatical is something that you want to take, but maybe this is more than a year in advance. And I know that seems like so far in the future, but in order to properly prepare for a sabbatical, the most comfortable time frame to do that, so you're not stressed, is approximately like 9 months to a year in advance. So although that might seem so far in the future, now is actually the time to start preparing that for yourself, and giving yourself plenty of time and grace to go through that program, and especially to take advantage of this amazing price. I will be offering this in the future. I'm going to go back to the pricing here. I will be offering this in the future, but it is not going to be at this price. It's likely going to be at least a couple $100 more. But because you are getting in while the deal is good, I want to make sure that you can take advantage, even if you feel like that sabbatical is still far in the future. I hope that my secrets allowed you to open up the possibilities in your mind about what's possible for you. I know you can do it. It's really just a matter of committing to yourself, and especially committing to enrolling in this program. But I know that if it is a desire that you have, then you owe it to yourself to be in that community, and to have that step-by-step roadmap to make it as easy as possible. Because if this is something that you've never done before, it's going to be really difficult for you to try to do this on your own, especially if you don't know anybody who's done it before and you don't have the resources and the tools at your fingertips. I don't want you wasting time. And especially with wasting time, I really don't want you spinning your wheels and then just getting discouraged and not doing it. What I want for you is to take that sabbatical. And if you choose to enroll with me, then I think that that's the best option. Of course, I don't know any other programs that are out there that are quite like this and that help you kind of holistically throughout that, balancing the personal, professional, financial, and even mental side of things to make sure that you make the most of this. And I know that it's scary to make that commitment to something that's, outside or off the beaten path. Not a lot of people are doing it, but there are people that can help you, like myself. And I just want, if that's something that you are feeling in your gut, that you feel drawn to, then I really, really encourage you to take a closer look at this program. Reach out, let me know if you have any questions. I'm opening up my calendar so you can schedule time with me and we can talk through anything, any questions that you have. But before we go, and of course, if you have any questions, if you are on live, type them in the comments below, or if you're watching the replay, type your questions in the comments below. I'd love to help you. And I want to just share some stories from other sabbatical takers, people that I have talked with personally and helped them, as they were planning their sabbatical and helping them, get over some of their roadblocks and hear their stories about what a sabbatical has meant for them. So Betsy, Jesse, they have 3 children under 5 when they took their sabbatical. And Betsy said, I'm definitely a believer of the month-long trip, especially with kids. It takes the pressure off. So somebody can get sick, it can rain, you can have a bunch of mediocre meals, and there's still so much time for magical things to happen. I hope you're able to help people have this experience. It's a really special time. I no longer think that a week counts as a vacation. How powerful is that? Kristen and Alan said, it's completely worth it. I wish I would have done it sooner in my career. And how many times have you taken that risk, that thing that you were a little bit scared to do, but when you're on the other side of it, you're like, why didn't I do that earlier? Like, a sabbatical is one of those things, 100%. A sabbatical, they said, allowed us to immerse ourselves into an adventure without the vacation end clock ticking in the back of our minds. And you know how that feels. I absolutely know that's not a good place to be. But a sabbatical, because it's longer, you get time to really just immerse yourself, as they said. And they also shared everyone's different in terms of what might be challenging for a break, whether that's the finances, logistics, mental health, pet care, the list goes on. But the more people you can talk to that have gone through the same experience already, you quickly see that there are answers to all of these challenges. So although I've shared a ton of details in this presentation about my secrets, there is still so much more to learn. And I hope that I helped showed you that there's a different perspective, and any of these challenges or roadblocks that you have in your head of, I can't get the time off, I don't have the money, etc. There are answers to all of those things. So, and I share exactly how to do that inside the program. And then lastly, Audrey and Harry, the opportunity to talk through travel ideas and potential obstacles with friends who have already been through the experience is the best way to take away anxiety or nervousness that planning a sabbatical may cause. Just like any other intimidating adventure, once you've seen or heard somebody else tackling it successfully, you realize you can do it too. And that's what I'm preaching. I know like I said, I'm not that special. I just made that commitment to myself and I figured it out. And now I can have the opportunity to help you do the same. So Audrey and Harry shared before we left for our sabbatical, the advice and stories that Susie shared with us proved invaluable. Her spirit was contagious and made us excited for our own trip. And that's exactly what I want you to do. So you can walk away today. And if you've stayed with me, thank you. That means the world to me. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And I hope that the lessons that I shared at least start helping you to think differently and opening up your mind to possibilities. And I really do feel strongly that a sabbatical is something that is possible for you. I know that you have it in you. You just got to believe in yourself. And even if you aren't 100% believing in you, I can give you the confidence. If you join me in my program, I'll step you step by step through the process, be there to cheer you on and encourage and support you along the way. It is something that, can get uncomfortable at times because you're going to feel like, well, I'm not sure if I can do this, but I know that if you have that desire and realize that you need this for your life, whether it's that because of burnout or just that goal, or thing that you want to learn or do, or just spend time with family, and that because that's not filling you up and you're not getting that time in your day-to-day life, the sabbatical is the solution to that. And I encourage you, again, join the link below. I've got it in the comments, so you can quickly link to that. But this offer, to get in on the deal, everybody loves a deal, but to get in on this very special pricing for founding members, you must take action by this Wednesday, October 23rd at 5 p.m. Pacific, so 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, just please let me know if you have any questions. Again, type them in the comments of this video, or feel free to reach out to me directly. You can DM me. Hi, Uncle Chris. You can DM me and let me know what's coming up for you, what hesitations you have. I would love to discuss any roadblocks that are holding you back, because sitting on the fence is a really uncomfortable place to be. So I want to get you one side or the other. I hope it is enrolling in the Sabbatical Suitcase program with me. I know that that is going to be just a really positive solution for you to get what you want out of life. Go live your best life. So that's what I'm here for. And, you know, my calendar is going to be open. I'll drop the link to that in the comments as well, to just sign up, take some time on my calendar, and we can chat. So thank you so much for joining. Here is my contact information. If you do want to reach out directly, you can feel free to do so. So thank you so very much for joining me. And I hope to be talking with you soon. Have a good one. Bye.